Okay, cool. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Michael. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Flamingo. Here with us today, we have Kurt. Maybe we're going to do a quick round of intros. So Kurt, if you present yourself.
Sure. Good day, everybody. Thanks for having us in. Kurt Aubley, CEO and co-founder of Sevii. We're an autonomous level 5 defense remediation platform. Personally, I've been working in cyber for 30 years, as you can tell from my gray hair. Formerly Army officer, CTO at Lockheed Martin for 14 years, CTO at Intel Corporation for a few years, and then hung out with this little startup in California called CrowdStrike. Nice to meet everybody.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Colin. I'm a senior director of AI and security strategy at Darktrace. We're a machine learning and AI company with a secure AI platform. I've been at Darktrace about 8 years, helping some of our largest customers deploy our AI technology. Most recently, 4 years ago, I got my master's in AI, and I've been working on developing new AI products and working with our customers.
Hey everybody, Jason Trunk here, Field CTO for Island. We've developed a brand new end-user compute environment. You might know us as the enterprise browser. We've really become a full enterprise platform at this point, so glad to be here.
Great. Today we're going to talk about AI and the risks that are encapsulated in adopting AI. Let's get started with the first question. So I would like to address all of you guys with that. So security a lot of times is a barrier for new adoptions of any technologies. Where do you guys see the barriers when it comes specifically to AI? Do you see policies already in place when it comes to governance and controls? And if so, what are the controls that you see?
Yeah, sure, I'll start. So what security controls do we see in AI today? Well, we brought in these tools, right? First, they started in the browser with chatbots and those kind of things, and now we're graduating to Claude Code, Claude Cowork. We have desktop-based applications, and security is really trying to keep up with it. And the best we could do was either break and inspect on the network and send everything through a network pipe and try to figure it out, or put an agent on the front end and try to figure out what's going on the front end, or put everybody in a virtual machine and try to monitor what they're doing. And again, that's going to take agents and networks to figure that out as well. And unfortunately, it's tough. It's tough to do it. It's tough to do the network anymore because we can't just break open and inspect all the traffic like we used to. We have new protocols. We have TLS 1.3. A lot of these new LLMs are certificate pinned, which means you can't see inside of them anyway. It doesn't matter how hard you look at the network traffic. So anyway, we've taken a different approach at Island. Obviously, being the browser has some advantages to that. But the challenges are still there, right? We need to see who's connecting to what MCP calls are going out, what APIs are going out, who's moving data, where's the data moving to. And I think that's really the key of everything is to keep an eye on the data, because that's what you guys are all here to protect. We're all here to protect the data. We used to call ourselves IT, information technology. It's still in most of our titles. It's not the information, it's the data. AI is creating the information from the data, but we still have to protect that core data, and it's getting tough.
Yeah, security never wants to be the blocker for business AI adoption, right? So what I've seen is organizations first need to establish that visibility, what AI is being used within an organization, who's using it, how are they using it, and then really decide on what enterprise tools that they want to sanction or allow usage. Of those AI tools, the new data source is actually the prompt. So having visibility into those prompts, understanding the intent of those prompts, but also having the context and awareness to know when maybe there's AI misuse or maybe there's that prompt injection attack. So really having that context analysis of the intent of the text is going to become the new attack surface for AI adoption.
So has anybody seen that MIT report that came out last year? It says 95% of all AI projects failed. I thought that was fantastic marketing. And when I look at AI, it's a leadership challenge, right? Security helps things happen safely, quickly, and if you currently have programs in your enterprise that are successful because you have really good leadership, you have a system engineering and integration process, you have a software development lifecycle that defines the outcomes you're looking for across people, process, and technology, and you get your current baseline of as is, if you have that current product management or product development lifecycle for building products already in your environment or doing IT projects, then you just need to apply that same concept to using AI safely. Now, AI is a little bit new for some folks, so there's a lot of technical pieces that we just mentioned. So do work with security early on so you can leverage it safely. But to me, making sure that your AI project is successful is all about leadership. If you have good, clear processes, people in place, security can help with the technology.
Great. So I would like to add a follow-up question on that. And I think we have a very nice, different type of products here. We have SASE, we have detection and response. We have a bunch of you guys here. And for the ones that have been around security and IT for more than 10 years, you're probably familiar with the term shadow IT. So small teams wants to move faster. They don't ask for permission from IT and security teams and just deploy stuff on their own and create kind of silos inside the organization in order for them to move quicker. Do you see it also happening with shadow AI? Do you see teams deploying AI faster? And then the work for you guys as vendors is to understand what has been deployed and how to mitigate that. So, as short, do you think shadow AI would become bigger than shadow IT?
100%. Anybody use OpenClaw or any of those tools? They're amazing.
Personally.
So the speed at which you can develop a product or technology today is 100 times faster than it was before. And I was just recently with a CISO. We just did a deployment. We're an autonomous defense and remediation platform, so we create a control tier of AI across all the other technologies. And the CISO I was talking to out west goes, hey, Kurt, I have all this new shadow IT. How can you help me find it? And I said, well, I'm a technology company, but my recommendation to you is become best friends with your chief financial officer. And that's exactly what happened. I'm kind of used to it. Everybody laughs at me. And one of my jobs when I was a CTO at Lockheed is we outsourced NASA. Everything, all the centers. And we got paid by asset we protected. And we didn't know all the assets because every group had all their own money to buy all their own things. So I went down to the NASA headquarters, I sat down with the chief financial officer, and I said, can you give us access to everything you ever buy because you have to approve it? And he's like, yeah. So shadow IT, besides having your leadership and your policy and tech enforcement, become best friends with the chief financial officer. They'll tell you all the AWS Bedrock they're buying, all the OpenAI licenses that are being bought on the corporate credit cards. That is the fastest way, and it has nothing to do with tech. That make sense? So that's just one layer and finding that shadow IT.
Very cool.
We saw one company that we asked one of our customers, how many AI tools do you have? This is the CISO, right? He's supposed to have his finger on the pulse of what's going on. He said, we have 7 tools. We've sanctioned 7 tools for the environment, and those are the tools that we've put forward, which seemed like a big number to me. Turns out it was over 220 that they actually had when they really dig into it and figure out what it was. Because it's not just the ones, sometimes they're paid for, like you said. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're free. Sometimes it's a personal account. And that's where you guys get in trouble, right? You start to send that company data, that secret stuff. You send it out to these personal tenants. Your college Gemini, right? You've logged into Google somewhere else and now it's that Gemini or whatever. And so understanding the difference between that corporate and that personal tenant, and it may be sometimes denying access to that depending on where they're at and what system they're on, that's going to be key. And maybe not denying the access, but maybe denying the upload, maybe denying the file movement or the data movement or the entering of data into those. Those are all different approaches now that we have the option to do.
Yeah, I really agree with Jason's approach. The fascinating thing about AI is that both end users are sort of bottom-up demanding these tools and they're going to be using them, and also top-down organizations are wanting to implement these AI tools. We did a study with Darktrace's 10,000 customers. Over 90% had shadow AI. Fascinating to me, 30% had DeepSeek usage. So end users are going to go out and find and use these tools, which is why it's important to use the enterprise-grade products that you can then have visibility and governance around.
Thanks. We talked about binary approach into what organizations are using. Yes, no, right? We talked about 200 tools or 70 tools or whatever. Do you guys see new approaches that are take a step forward in order to understand the granularity of how data is used, how tools accessibility is being utilized by those AI tools, and how do we prevent as security from those tools to do the bad stuff while maintaining the business functionality and the essentiality of those tools to the organization?
From an agentic standpoint, I think that's where a lot of these tools are headed to unlock a lot more value. As we give those tools more access, more permissions, the more useful they become, but also the riskier they become. And that's where you need a behavioral approach around it. Because I think of the agentic LLM as almost a new insider threat use case. They have insider access, but they're very susceptible to prompt injection or social engineering or just hallucinations and misuse. A lot of the tools, agentic systems that are going to be built will have a very specific purpose that'll be easy to model and track when there's that misaligned behavior coming out of those tools. So it's not just looking at how the end user is using the tools, what prompts are going in, but when we start giving them actual useful and tools to take action, you'll need to understand, is that action normal for that device, or are they sort of misacting within an environment?
But it's almost like we want to help, in security, we want to help great things happen safely. So I think we're almost to a point of actually teaching classes and teaching end users how to use these AI tools because they can be really productive. Because if you notice, there's also two big trends happening in the market today. I read about just this morning with SAP. Mercedes-Benz uses 60% less SAP because they've written their own agents to pull on the data via APIs to SAP. So what's SAP doing? They're closing down those APIs. So now you're going to get people building, if they don't have some education, they can start getting used to having access to these APIs and data. Different vendors may be turning that off because it has to be, they want to make money on it, right? The other challenge is tokenization. Has anybody ever used OpenAI? It's free, right? Anybody here ever write code in using Claude or any other tools to write code? Last month, the Uber CTO said that they burned through their entire year of budget because of AI token use writing code. So now, as people start using AI and they get really used to it, you have to think about, are they going to be able to get access to that same data over time? And how much budget are they burning through if they're using a product that does token usage? Which I think comes back to my first recommendation is, you might want to teach them how to use it safely and economically.
Yeah, I think that's a mistake by the SAP guys, by the way, to turn off the APIs. You think about companies
That doesn't make any sense, does it?
Doesn't make any sense because Salesforce is doing just the opposite, right? Massive SaaS company, huge market capitalization for Salesforce. But if you think about what Salesforce is, it's some guy entering data into one field, tabbing over, putting it into another field, putting it in another field. AI can do this. You know what? Here's my notes from the sales calls. Just go fill in my forecast. Right? And tell me, does this sound like buying signs from the customer? You just listened to this whole meeting. You took all the meeting notes from this. Salesforce ingests that. Let me know if I'm going to have a good quarter, right? It should be kind of smart enough to do that now. And so Salesforce is seeing the light. And they're like, hey, we're opening all this up for APIs. In fact, we're going to be an API-first driven company. And back to the question, I think these guardrails that we're trying to put in place, how do we deal with it? How do we deal with shadow AI and so forth, and the data moving where it's not supposed to go? The general answer is we have AI guardrails at the server side. Now, that's great. It's nice. It's nice to have it next to the data, but the data's safe, and the guardrails make it a little bit safer. But there's really not a lot of technologies that are doing the guardrails at the front end, at the client side, because that's where the data starts to leak out. It leaks out in front of you. It leaks out to your eyeballs, to somebody's face, right, when they display it on the screen or when they copy paste it out of their web browser, when they move a file, those types of things. That's where real data movement happens, not necessarily at the server side, but the client side. So technologies like ours and others are doing a great job protecting that at the client side. But it's also able to tell what technologies you're reaching out to. So we could see who's using what, which account they're using, how many tokens are they burning, all because we have that client-side control. And I think that's definitely one approach to starting to govern.
This is just a fun item on top of that. Now that you have AI access, you know the adversaries have all the same access and they have fun tools. Has anybody ever downloaded Worm GPT? For $170 a year, within 5 minutes you can build your own attacks and stuff. It's fun. But to your point, some areas we work in, people are just using their phones to record, because it's not using a browser, it's not using anything. They're recording the meeting, the video of the meeting, then pumping it into an AI to completely review it, create PowerPoints from the meeting, redo the notes, and now suddenly losing that data isn't even touching any of the computers that you're under your enterprise security.
I think to both your points, the bar for AI adoption is so low. And purposefully, these LLMs and tools are being integrated into SaaS systems that we already use. We're usually on the vendor's timeline, not on your AI adoption timeline. And the end user training on how to use those AI tools, they're not thinking like least privileges approach when I set up my agent and Copilot Studio to help me write reports. So you'll want to understand sort of the scope of the blast radius that's being created, and also have the end users understand the risks that are involved with the access that they're giving.
Very cool. I think that if we look at history and the last two things that happened in technology most recently, which is moving to the cloud and work from home, it always happened, and then security had to figure out what to do, right? So we had moving to the cloud, and then we had to discover threats and then preventing them, and it's always discovery and then prevention. I think that the velocity right now of how things are changing is faster than work from home or cloud, right? It took 1 or 2 decades to move to the cloud. Now we see those tools, as you said, the barrier to entry is so low. Do you think that the tension between security teams and business stakeholders inside the organization will be stronger and harder with this AI revolution?
So I love this discussion because I don't know if anybody was part of that cloud revolution. I remember when we started working in cloud computing, I used to talk to CEOs and customers, and they would be like, I can't use cloud computing. I don't trust it. I have to have my own data center. Some people do that still, but it's pretty rare, right? So just like end users are using AI for speed and scale, we are quickly getting to a point where speed and scale, like CrowdStrike, where I used to work, they just said an adversary gets into a computer, 23 seconds later they break out, if it's a nation state. And I forgot the person's name who presented before. That was a great presentation. I'm a little more scared today, but great presentation, right? 28 minutes of an e-crime actor. If our security teams do not embrace agentic AI, which is like a level 4 technology, and a level 5 technology, which is autonomous AI, where you don't need humans in the loop, the chances of security teams moving as fast as end users, or all their agents are creating, or adversaries are using agents, it's going to be exceptionally hard to stop data from leaving if you can't be at the same speed and scale as the agents you're trying to defend against.
I do think in terms of AI adoption in the organization, what the security team can do is we need to be adopting AI tools ourselves.
Absolutely.
And that will sort of help us tackle the challenges of AI adoption, but also, like you're saying, new threats. They're moving at machine speed. Tools like Mythos can do end-to-end sort of exploit chaining to access things quicker, and moving from sort of that human verifying and in the loop and taking actions to more of a human around the loop, looking at both the data going into the AI system, but also validating the outputs, and still having that human in the loop for the very critical decisions. But that's the direction we need to go to handle the scale and pace of tomorrow's attacks.
And I think that's been a challenge for security. I don't know how many people did cloud migrations, but usually it was the security team that said we don't want to move to the cloud because we don't know how to automate in the cloud. I think security teams, all of us, have to quickly adopt this technology because it's just moving so fast. Security can't be the one saying, I need a human in the loop, when the rest of the world is doing their complete Salesforce forecast and no humans needed.
Think about all the way back to last year. We used to be able to just say no. Nope, can't use AI in the organization. We're going to block it. Can't do it. Can't do it. In fact, if you take a look from a network perspective, if you're on a managed laptop and you're going through a managed CTNA network or a SASE network, their answer is to say no, to block it. We're going to block all Claude, block Copilot, we're going to block. That's just not going to work these days. People, number one, are getting around it, right? They just pop a personal hotspot and then they get to wherever they want to go or something like that. But the reality is we just can't say no anymore. We have to say yes. We have to embrace it. We have to let it go. I've seen it go way the other direction. Banks are some of my customers, some of the big banks. One of the big banks that I won't mention has told the people, 3,500 developers, go nuts with Claude Cowork, go nuts with Claude Code, do whatever you want, access any data you want, just use it. And it's because they want some of that IPO money from Anthropic, right? Because they don't want to say no to Anthropic because then Anthropic won't let them play ball with the IPO. But anyway, that's an extreme case. I think that's going to turn out badly. I do. I think there's going to be some incident somewhere where data gets exposed in who knows what ways. But it goes from saying no to saying yes. Somewhere in the middle, you have the governance. Somewhere in the middle, you have what you're comfortable with as a company, the data you're comfortable going in, the data that you're comfortable with coming out. That's the sweet spot, and obviously that needs to be governed and audited in an efficient way.
Thanks. So we talked before about the different, like how we look at agentic system that is running inside of our organization or enterprise. Colin mentioned it correctly. Maybe we should look at it as an insider threat, but it's an employee at the end. And that kind of goes back to my next question. Do you guys think that the current controls that we have today are sufficient, or some of them will become obsolete? And on the other hand, whether we can utilize AI to jump above some of the tools we already have. So for example, if we used to have SIEM and we used to have a bunch of rules, now we can just activate AI to go and query the data in real time, what Court is doing. So what do you guys think, how are we going to look at it moving forward from the tooling perspective of security, but also from the way we control how AI is being functioned inside the organization?
Yeah, I think the SIEM is still going to stick around. Obviously, we need the events to come in. It's going to get a lot easier to read them. It's going to get a lot easier to summarize them and make it make sense. So there's a lot of tools out there that are doing that. But that telemetry is also going to get smarter. So instead of 15 systems saying, hey, something might be wrong, it's going to be one system saying something definitely is wrong. So it's going to be faster mean time to repair. It's going to be a better user experience, hopefully, in the end. And as far as the tooling, the world that I deal in, a lot of my customers are still using Citrix, and they're using AWS Workspaces and Azure Virtual Desktops and those kind of things. And that's all there for one reason. It's just there for security. We needed a confined, maintained area to do our data, right? So our data didn't leak out of that contained area. But now it's leaking out. We have laptops, we have folks on their phones, we're accessing data in different ways. So that endpoint needs to be rethought. And that's what we did at Island 6 years ago. We rethought that endpoint and said, well, let's start with the browser. If you need to take it to the desktop, fine, we've got tools for that. But since that data really decrypts in the browser, what a great place to start. And that's the philosophy we've had. We didn't know we were building it for AI, but that's the perfect solution now for AI, is to govern that data in a different way. So I'm a little biased on that particular tool, but I think there's a lot of tools that are going to have to adapt and be more productive. And I think a lot of tools will also consolidate. I think we'll see a lot of systems that think about your legacy applications. You might have 2,000 applications in your estate. 500 of them might be compiled, thick, old Win32, DOS, Power Builder, Windows executable applications. All those are going to get rewritten. AI is going to let you rewrite those and upgrade those to something more modern very quickly. And we didn't plan for that. Citrix didn't plan for that, right? So we're going to see a massive app migration, I think, along with the tooling.
I mentioned earlier, visibility is going to be core, and there's more and more data sources, more and more activity, more and more digital activity occurring. As you get all of those new data sources, that means more alerts. And really, that alert approach is going to grow exponentially, and what you need is a system that is going to autonomously investigate those alerts and those different signals. A lot of the smaller signals across the security stack, smaller IOCs, are going to be indicative of things like zero-day attacks. You're going to need those different data points to understand when a zero-day attack might be occurring. Darktrace, we've caught 0 days, 120 days before Sevii release, and there's just going to be new vulnerabilities and a sort of an explosion of software that may contain vulnerabilities where it's no longer, the starting line isn't when this vulnerability is released, it's actually how can you detect it through minor signals across the security stack autonomously to catch that next threat.
All right, I didn't write this question, but I love this question. Who here has an unlimited number of people on their security team and an unlimited budget? Everybody in the front row, behind you, they all raised their hand, so you need to ask for more stuff. I love this question because personally, my co-founder Arnie and I deployed our first SIEM in the Pentagon 2002. And it's an ISP program. And we deployed it because we needed one place to bring the data because we had a finite number of people that could do security. If we fast forward today, we haven't changed the security architecture at all. Detection technologies, Darktrace, awesome. New ways of doing thin clients, or whatever the appropriate name is, pop a browser up, it just all works. But we fundamentally haven't changed anything, but now we can change everything. We are no longer limited by finite human resources or other resources. So this concept of this pyramid, where everything had to go to a SIEM, well, SIEMs will go away around the same time mainframes do. But you don't have to bring all that data to one location to make a decision anymore because you only have a limited number of humans, or you outsource to an MDR, right? We know we have to move faster. Baseline your mean time to detection and remediation. Look at your architecture. Think now differently. I have unlimited agentic AI agents. I now have, we call them cyber warriors because we're all ex-combat officers, and we just decided we could use that name. But cyber warriors or agentic AI agents, imagine if you had an unlimited number of agentic AI agents to do your security work. Would you do your security work different? Probably. You might go to the edge and grab data from Darktrace, or data from Island, or data from CrowdStrike, instead of waiting for that data to get to the SIEM. So many of the different applications we've built in the enterprise for your business or for security was all designed because of a limited, finite number of people, from coding to testing to operations. Just think, my company, we decided not to offshore any of our development. We develop everything here. I design in California, I build in North Carolina and Florida. Why? Because I have an unlimited number of agentic agents that help us code, help us test, and help us operate. So if I challenge everybody here, we have to do it all safely. You now have an unlimited number of agentic AI agents working for you. Use your imagination. We can do a lot of really cool things together.
And it's cheaper, right? Because SIEM is expensive as hell, right? So
redirect all that SIEM and SOAR data. Because remember, SIEMs were built because you had finite people. SOARs were built because you had finite people. You can redirect that. You don't have to outsource to overseas locations. Get more interns from FIU. Bring them in. Now you can do it more cost effectively. Okay, I did say that at a different university I was at too, but
it's fine.
I love helping colleges.
Yeah, so great. Follow up on that. So enterprises that does not adopt AI fast enough are probably going to be in a big problem in a short period of time. Do you guys think that companies, enterprises that hold sensitive data or have sensitive processes will be in the same spot if they're not going to refresh their security architecture?
Well, it's either that or they say no to AI. They've got to change it because AI, most of it runs in the cloud unless you're downloading local models and you've got a local system to run the models against. That's great. I see some people trying to do that, but the latest models are going to be hosted. They're going to be in the cloud. That means the data has to move up. The data has to move out of your environment to that environment. We're going to have to embrace it. We're going to have to say yes to that. But what if we scrub the data before it goes? What if we have these bulk files that you just uploaded to Claude and now it's up in Claude servers going through it, but they don't see the sensitive data? That's now possible, right? We can do that. We can scrub that data before it leaves. So I think it's just going to be a different mindset. They're going to have to say yes. You guys are all going to have to embrace it. This is the new world we live in. Just be safe when we do it and approach it with some smarts.
Totally agree. Attackers are already adopting AI for speed and scale of their operations. They don't need the same accuracy and efficacy we do. They're just spraying and praying. We've seen new strains of malware, ransomware, one of which is called LameHug, but it essentially command and controls out to a Quen model hosted on Alibaba for its next move in operation. So attackers don't even have to have that human in the loop. They're already adapting it, and I think the spread of attacks is going to really increase, and we need sort of that automated defense that we can verify in order to combat that threat.
Yeah, the last speaker kind of highlighted the offense. So if you like sports, I love sports. I'm a soccer player, but I like watching the Miami Dolphins, right? What do football teams do? They play their Sunday game, and then that evening they look at all the digital analysis, and you start understanding the offense so you can play better defense. You understand the defense, so you can play better offense. We'll just go with the latter here. Now that we know the offense, like the Anthropic Claude report, GT1002, if you haven't read it, it's a great report of how the offense is moving super fast. If the offense is moving super fast, measure your own speed. If you can use humans in the loop and be as fast as an adversary at speed and scale, congratulations. If you can't match that speed and scale, well, looks like you're going to have to adopt agentic AI and autonomous technologies much faster so that you can manage the risk for your corporation or education or location in a safe fashion to help your other stakeholders use all the AI that they want to use.
Cool. One question before last, because we have 5 more minutes. if we'll map out enterprises and we'll see who is adopting AI first, it's probably the most advanced and the employees that the organization want to keep, right? But then the question of all questions is that who held accountable when something bad happens, right? What are the policies, or what are the different governance tools that you guys see in order to, on the one hand, facilitate that and encourage that, and on the other hand, make sure that everyone held accountable?
Well, I think just understanding it is key, right? If we're starting to see the events, if we're starting to see files moving where they're not supposed to go, even clipboard movement, like somebody copying something from here, pasting here, seems silly, but those could be sensitive pieces of data, right? We need to have an understanding of where that stuff is going. As far as the procedural, how to enforce it and those kind of things, obviously Island has tools for it. There are tools that can watch that data movement and just tell the user about it. Tell them in real time while they're doing it. Hey, you know that file you uploaded has some sensitive stuff in it. You sure you want to do that? And they can self-govern. And I think we give them the power to try to override it, try to ask for an exception, try to go ahead and say it's okay if they have the authority to do that. But that all has to be governed. And that's a process that we can do at that client side, at that end user compute side. So I think that first step is to just let them know. Maybe the real first step is just to audit it. Watch it for a month. Turn it on, watch it. A tool like Island, turn it on, watch it, see where data is moving. We have this beautiful data lineage graph that shows you where it's all going, where it's connected. And then maybe second step is to warn the user. Great. Now we're starting to move data around, be careful. And then potentially block and request access after that. So I think it's more of a learned behavior. Yeah, this is all new for everybody. Oh, shoot, you don't want me uploading those financial results that we haven't even told the street yet? Yeah, I should have known that. So those kind of things we just need to get some muscle memory around.
In terms of responsibility, I break it down into three different categories. The end user should know the AI governance policy, what they're able to put in, and there should be guardrails around them that the IT team and security team agree on and set. So the first one would be the end user, understanding the use, IT team, and then also the technology vendor, making sure that they're releasing responsible models, and all three of those should really know the limitations of the AI models that they're adopting. If there's hallucinations or drift, they should be just aware of the limitations and really validate the output where it matters. But I think it falls into those three areas depending on where the AI failure occurs, if it's policy-based or if it's actual breakdown of an agentic system.
I totally agree. Setting the policy and updating that, very few people I know ever update their policy. But in the AI world, you're going to have to look at that policy a lot more often because Colin's right, that education of what the policy is becomes important on the accountability. But I'm an extremely positive energy kind of surfer dude, and this is a great innovation opportunity, right? If you encourage this innovation, make people accountable that, hey, innovate, try this new things, and then graduate those innovations into programs of record, because there is a risk that if someone innovates and everybody starts relying on a new agent they built, and then they graduate and they go on to do wonderful things somewhere else, or they move to a different company, who's maintaining that new tech that they have that everybody relies on? So instead of fighting it, embrace it, have an innovation contest, start getting those innovations up so they're accountable and maintainable and can be secured.
Yeah, everyone will almost become sort of AI managers of themselves. They have to understand what their AI employees are doing out in the wild.
Yeah, I just created 1,000 new innovators to work on my project with me. Yeah. I left and they're still running around doing work.
Still with the same permissions and access that was set before.
Very cool. Okay, so we're going to wrap up. One key takeaway that you're going to for secure AI adoption for all of you guys?
One key takeaway? Well, you got to embrace it. Do it safely. Do it smart. Think about the client. It's not just on the server. Think about your end user compute environment. Think about what's the next generation. Reevaluate your tech stack and think about the data first. I think that's maybe the takeaway.
I'd boil it down to three things: AI visibility, prompt level visibility, and then understanding the behavior that those AI agents are taking. So behavioral monitoring for those agents.
Dang, I was going to use embrace. Now I'm trying to think of a new thing to say. Old school here. People, process, technology. We're going to have to educate the people and get the right process. People educated on what is needed. Process, embrace things so that security is brought in early. And on the technology side, what a great opportunity. You now have an unlimited number of agentic AI agents for your security team. Just imagine what you can do if you have 1,000 extra people on your security team.
Thank you, guys. Colin, Jason, and Kurt. And yeah, I'm going to move on.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Good job.
Good job.